On February 9, 2004, 21-year-old Maura Murray was involved in a single-car accident on a snow-covered road in Woodsville, New Hampshire. She was alone and, remarkably, seemed unhurt when a passerby stopped to offer help. But what happened next? By the time the police arrived just minutes later, Mora had vanished without a trace. Why would a young woman, seemingly in good health, disappear so quickly? What was going through Mora's mind as she left the safety of the accident scene? She had no destination in mind, and yet she had made preparations for something. Why didn't she tell anyone where she was going? What drove her to leave her life, her studies, and her family behind? Maura Murray was born on May 4, 1982, in Brockton, Massachusetts. She was the fourth of 5 children in a close-knit Irish Catholic family. Growing up, Mora had a lot of potential. She was an excellent student, a dedicated athlete, and was known for her bright personality. But her childhood wasn't without its challenges. When she was young, her parents divorced, and Mora found herself caught between 2 homes, splitting her time with both her mother and father. This early division seemed to have shaped her in ways that many around her didn't fully understand. As Mora grew older, she focused on her academic and athletic goals, excelling in both. Her athletic abilities earned her recognition, and she became a standout track athlete at Whitman-Hanson Regional High School. After graduating, Mora set her sights on a bigger future. She received an appointment to the prestigious U.S. Military Academy at West Point. But after just 3 semesters, Mora made a surprising decision. She left West Point, choosing to pursue a new path at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, where she began studying nursing. While Mora had clearly achieved academic success, there were signs that not everything was going as smoothly as it seemed. She had the drive to succeed, but she also seemed to be holding something back. Despite her bright future, Mora struggled with personal issues that no one could fully grasp at the time. She was a nursing student, passionate about helping others, but her personal life appeared to be more complicated than anyone could have imagined. It was clear that Mora was more than just her grades and athletic achievements. There was a side of her that remained hidden from those closest to her. Her family saw her as a determined young woman with a promising future. Her friends admired her, but no one knew just how much Mora was carrying inside. Something wasn't adding up, but what was it? Just a few months before her disappearance, in November 2003, Mora was involved in a troubling incident. She used a stolen credit card to pay for meals at several restaurants in Hadley, Massachusetts. This wasn't just a minor mistake, it was a sign that something was off. While the incident didn't lead to any major consequences for Mora, she was given a chance to have the charge dismissed after 3 months of good behavior. It raised questions about her state of mind. Why would Mora, who was so focused on her future, make such a decision? Was she struggling with something more than she let on? Then, in early February 2004, there were more signs of trouble. On the night of February 5th, Mora was working her shift at the campus security office when she had a conversation with her older sister, Kathleen. The conversation would later be remembered as a major red flag. Mora, usually composed and focused, broke down in tears during their talk. She was distant, emotionally drained, and seemed detached from the world around her. When her supervisor arrived at her desk, Mora was described as zoned out and unresponsive. She was escorted back to her dorm room, but this moment stuck with her family, especially her sister, who later realized the breakdown had something to do with her own struggles with alcoholism. This emotional turmoil, which Mora had kept private, seemed to be slowly consuming her. It wasn't just a moment of stress or sadness. This was something deeper, something that had been building up over time. While Mora's family thought of her as strong and independent, these moments of vulnerability painted a different picture. There was clearly more going on in her life than anyone knew, and it was starting to affect her behavior and decisions in ways that were hard to understand at the time. On the afternoon of February 9, 2004, Mora's actions took an unusual turn. That morning, she emailed her professors and work supervisor, telling them she needed to take the week off due to a death in the family. However, when her family was contacted, they confirmed there had been no such tragedy. This contradiction raised immediate questions. Why would Mora make up something like that? Was she trying to cover up her true intentions, or was something more complicated happening? Soon after sending the email, Mora began packing up her dorm room. It wasn't just a quick tidy-up. She packed up most of her belongings, including textbooks and personal items. She didn't leave a clear explanation for anyone. Why would she prepare to leave, especially when she hadn't shared any plans with her family or friends? It looked as though she was preparing for a long absence, but there was no clue as to where she was going or why she'd chosen to leave that day. Later, Mora sent a final email to her boyfriend, saying she loved him and promising to call later. She also made several phone calls, including one to a condo rental service in Bartlett, New Hampshire, and another to a fellow nursing student. But what was strange about these calls was that she never told anyone where she was going or why she needed to leave suddenly. It was as if she was taking steps to disappear without anyone knowing her true destination. At 7:27 p.m., a local woman driving near Woodsville, New Hampshire, reported seeing Mora's car crashed on Route 112, a rural area known for its sharp turns. The woman also saw Mora walking around her car, but when the motorist offered help, Mora declined, claiming she had already called roadside assistance. As the evening wore on, the confusion surrounding Maura Murray's disappearance only deepened. By 7:46 p.m., when the police arrived at the scene of the crash, Mora was gone. The car was still locked, and there was no sign of her anywhere. What was puzzling was what the officers found inside the car. There were personal items scattered around, including a book on mountain climbing, a stuffed animal, and a box of wine. But what was missing were the things that could have provided clues: Mora's cell phone, her credit and debit cards. Everything that could help track her or explain where she had gone was gone. Initially, investigators didn't know what to make of the situation. There were no obvious signs of foul play. No blood, no struggle. Just an abandoned car in a remote area. This led authorities to consider the possibility that Mora might have wanted to disappear on her own. Her sudden departure, without telling anyone where she was going, seemed strange, but not necessarily criminal. It wasn't clear whether Mora had planned to leave her life behind, or if something else had happened that caused her to vanish without a trace. The more authorities put together the details, the more questions arose. What made Mora leave that night? Why didn't she reach out to anyone before she left? And if she intended to disappear, why leave her belongings behind in such a rushed and incomplete way? The uncertainty only grew as time passed, and the police struggled to find answers in the silence Mora had left behind. The mystery was only beginning, and every lead seemed to open more doors without offering any answers. The search for Maura Murray began the moment she was reported missing, but with little evidence to work with, the investigation struggled to make progress. Search teams immediately scoured the area around the crash site, but the trail quickly ran cold. A tracking dog managed to follow Mora's scent for about 100 yards before it abruptly stopped, leading investigators to believe she had either been picked up by someone or had walked away from the scene. Despite their best efforts, Mora was nowhere to be found. The landscape was vast and remote, and every step forward seemed to uncover more questions than answers. As the hours passed, there were sightings that added to the confusion. A local contractor reported seeing someone walking along Route 112 that evening, not far from the crash site. The person appeared to be wearing jeans and a coat, but the details were vague. The contractor couldn't confirm if it was Mora, and there was no way to link the sighting to the missing woman with certainty. This left investigators with even fewer clues and a growing sense of frustration. As time passed and the search for Maura Murray yielded no answers, different theories began to surface, each offering a different explanation for her mysterious disappearance. One of the more widely discussed theories was that Mora was in the midst of a personal crisis. Some believed that the stress from her academic life, family issues, and personal struggles had built up to a breaking point, and she may have decided to leave everything behind. Her sudden actions, including the packing of her belongings and her cryptic emails, led some to think she wanted to disappear voluntarily, either to escape or start over. However, not everyone agreed with this theory. Many speculated that foul play was involved. The strange circumstances surrounding the crash, like the fact that Mora seemed perfectly fine when she was last seen, yet disappeared moments later, raised suspicions. The question about the man seen near her car also remained unanswered. Was he just a passerby, or could he have played a role in Mora's disappearance? The lack of concrete evidence of foul play made it hard to rule out any possibility, and this only fueled the mystery. Moreover, several unreported sightings of a person walking in the area that night added to the confusion. Some believed that Mora may have been trying to leave town to escape her past, but others wondered if someone had taken advantage of her vulnerability. With no solid evidence, the theories continued to evolve, leaving the public with more questions than answers. This case remains open to this day, with investigators continuing to search for answers. In 2021, a significant discovery brought brief hope to the case when bone fragments were found in an area not far from where Mora's car had been discovered. For a time, it was believed that the remains might belong to her. However, after thorough DNA testing, it was confirmed that the fragments were not Mora's. This revelation, while disappointing, didn't close the door on the case entirely, but it did remind everyone of how little evidence has been found over the years. Meanwhile, Mora's family, especially her father Fred, refuses to give up the search. Fred has openly stated that he believes his daughter is no longer alive, but that does not stop him from pursuing every possible lead in hopes of finding out what really happened. He has spent years tirelessly searching, attending events, and pushing for more attention on the case. His determination to uncover the truth about Mora's disappearance continues, despite the passing of so much time. The case still haunts those who were closest to Mora and remains a tragic reminder of how a person can simply vanish without a trace. While the investigation carries on, the answers still seem far out of reach. The search for Mora is not just about solving a case. It's about finding closure for a family left without answers, and for a community that still wonders what happened to the young woman who disappeared one cold February night. Maura Murray's disappearance is a stark reminder of the importance of never giving up on missing persons cases, no matter how much time has passed. The search for Mora has not only touched her family, but also sparked a wider conversation about the difficulties families face when a loved one goes missing. It underscores the need for continued support, both from law enforcement and the public, to help bring closure and answers. Mora's story is far from over, and the truth still deserves to be uncovered. As we reflect on Mora's case, we ask you to consider the possibilities. Was it a tragic accident, or is there something more to this story than we've been able to piece together? The questions remain unanswered, and your thoughts could help bring attention to details that may have been overlooked. We encourage you to share your theories and reflections in the comments below. Every piece of information counts, and keeping the conversation going may lead to the breakthrough Mora's family is desperately waiting for. What do you think happened to Maura Murray? Let us know your thoughts.